Hi, this is our podcast. I'm Dillon. I've got my buddy here, Wesley. We're going to talk a little bit about zombies some more. Please enjoy the video of us playing Left 4 Dead 2 while we get into the hypotheticals a little bit here. So first off, let's talk about. What is it about zombies that we are so infatuated with? That there are so many shows, and there's just so much to go around, and so many games. What is it about zombies that makes it such a successful market?
I think it's just an interesting idea right off the bat.
So just for the novelty's sake.
You don't really have to explain it very much. It's like the dead are coming alive,
Right.
It's very simple but complex.
I think there are some things to be said about the market. I think this game, and a lot of zombie stuff really targets a younger, kind of spry audience that feels like they would survive. I feel like if I was an older person that couldn't move around too well, I would be a little nervous about a zombie hypothetical. Whereas, my 21-year-old self, I feel exhilarated at the thought of, total survival and, exhilaration of constantly slaughtering enemies,
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it sort of appeals to, violent young men. And I think it makes sense to say it's probably a justification, like I said earlier, in the last podcast. We get to kill humans, and we sort of have it justified that, their enemies are trying to get you also,
Yeah. They're dead. That's another thing is they're dead.
Right.
So that's another reason you shouldn't feel bad for killing them because they're already dead.
Right, yeah, even when they have, like, a terminal illness, it's always a terminal illness. It's not something that you can resuscitate them from.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no coming back from that.
But just hypothetically, what would you do in your own life if a zombie apocalypse, an outbreak of some virus, was turning people into basically ultra rabies, monsters, like the ones that we're seeing in this game? I think it's interesting. Just before we get into the hypotheticals, if you notice, all the enemies you fight in this game appear to be young people. I think that's
Yeah, you don't really see any old zombies.
right. I don't think that their bodies are capable of, of fulfilling the demands of, a predator like the zombie has to.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, back to the hypothetical. What would you do? I think there's some literature like the Zombie Survival Guide that sort of directs us to, grocery stores and high schools, easily defended locations with access to, like, a cafeteria.
I feel like I don't have any weapons or anything, but I feel like I could survive a zombie apocalypse. I do have a bat, but
Right.
I think what you should be worried about more than zombies, and I think The Walking Dead does a great job of showing this, is the people that come after the zombie apocalypse. Like at some point, people become more of a threat to you than the zombies do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would happen in real life. I feel like not as many people would die if there was a real zombie apocalypse.
Well,
But the world would be in total chaos, and you wouldn't be able to trust anybody.
Right. I asked my dad one time, what would you do if there was a fallout situation, like a zombie apocalypse or, a nuclear fallout? And he said, basically what you want to do is get to a grocery store with a bunch of guns, like a Walmart, for example, and get there first, because when you get there, even if you're as fast as you can go, when you get there, there's going to be a guy there who's defending that location with a gun, because it's the ultimate resource. All that ammunition and all those, water bottles.
Defending it against
humans.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even let a old lady with a church full of a school bus full of church children in, because he's got to have that water, otherwise he's dead.
Yeah.
So in a hypothetical situation like this, only the most brutal, vicious killers will survive.
Yeah, it seems like it. Not only do you have to fight off zombies, you have to fight off the people. You got to fend for yourself.
Right. Actually, a goal immediately becomes to kill as many people as possible, as fast as possible, because you have so limited resources the more people there are, the sooner that you are you're doomed.
Yeah, it just seems like an issue. It just, how would you organize those people that you don't know?
Right. I mean, you'd have to get them into farming. Basically, is the only answer. I mean, they need food, and that's the main issue. And farming is probably the. I mean, you first of all, we don't have enough fresh water in this hypothetical world to, for example, maintain cattle. I think a hamburger costs like 2,000 gallons of water or something insane to produce. So, I mean, I can't see it happening where we continue to have livestock, maybe chickens. I mean, they're fast enough. I feel like it's harder for a zombie to catch a chicken than it is for a person, and I mean, a person is like still gonna have a hard time catching a chicken. So maybe chickens, you know.
Yeah.
But even then, we're gonna definitely rely on agriculture. Whatever people survive and agree not to kill each other, they're gonna have to farm, and they're gonna have to get started farming immediately. They'll probably have to take over a farm, and I think that's a sad reality that farmers are going to be number one targets as soon as the apocalypse hits.
Yeah. I feel pretty naive now. I didn't even think of that. When you talk about a zombie apocalypse, one of the first things you think of is, just avoid the zombies, but then you gotta avoid the people, and then you also gotta have the resources to take care of yourself and anyone else with you.
Right, and like to have those resources, you're going to have to do some killing because everyone's competing for them.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of makes sense now why there isn't a lot of people in most hypothetical zombie situations. Most zombie movies.
Right. Usually in most zombie movies, it's kind of boiled down to like 5 or 6 people who will act as the main characters and the full cast for the entire film.
Yeah. If you think about it in movies like Zombieland, I don't think there's any other characters besides the ones you see.
Right, and it's only through sheer coincidence that they run into each other.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I appreciate The Walking Dead, is giving it a new spin on what about the people in this situation, because I feel like a lot of zombie situations lack that, or even acknowledge that you have to avoid human contact as well.
I think that The Walking Dead has some major problems. For example, there are some characters that just seem like really killable that just don't get killed, which is not realistic. Like, if you're vulnerable to being shot by a hidden handgun, that's something that will happen to you if someone has motivation to do it. And there's like a dictator character, in The Walking Dead, who would definitely be killed basically that day.
Well, yeah, definitely. That's just TV show drama, though.
Right. They sort of prolong his existence because he's a conflict creating character. As long as there's conflict in the shows, people are watching.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, we've had fun. This has been our show. Hope you enjoyed it. We're signing off. Dillon and Wesley. Our zombie podcast has come to an end with this last and final episode.
That's right. Goodbye.
Bye.